Welcome to CEOs Solve the Darndest Things, a video and podcast series of interviews with CEOs, hosted by the partners of the Resolve firm.
Welcome to CEOs Solve the Darndest Things. I'm Sharon Fruits and I'm your host today, and I'm very happy to have Deedra Hughes from Hughes Media with us today. Deedra, welcome. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. My pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So tell me a little bit about your company and about your role in the company.
Hughes Media is a full-service digital agency, and I'm the founder and CEO of the company that I started in the year 2000, and now we're in 2020. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Time flies like that.
So tell me what your company does.
Well, as being a full-service digital agency, it's advertising on the internet, anything that involves digital SEO, which is search engine optimization, SEM, which is pay-per-click, or Facebook ads, or programmatic ads, anything that's going to bring our clients business, bring them the right prospects so that they have more business and grow their business.
That's great. How did you get into this field? What made you decide that this is where you wanted to spend your time?
Well, I'd been in traditional advertising before.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of old.
No.
And I just had an affinity for the internet, and I knew that it was powerful, and I knew that everything was going to go to the internet. So I just started researching, and I took traditional clients that I first started with and looked for opportunities to help them grow their business using the digital media, what was new back then.
Yeah, new back then, right?
Yeah, it's new.
So what excites you the most about getting up and going to work every day? When you think about driving into the office, what is the most exciting part?
Well, it's fun getting people results and making your clients happy. I also enjoy the team that I work with. It's fun growing people as well.
Right.
So, I have some older people on staff, and then I have people that are 35, 37, and I have people that are 25, 27 years old on the staff. So it's really a challenge to grow the businesses that we work for as well as the people, and give them the right challenges and get them in the right direction, in the right channel. So they're always growing.
Great. We were talking earlier about the transition from kind of the old ways of advertising to the new. I think that might be a big conundrum that would be interesting for you to share with folks. What happened way back? Maybe that was around 2009.
It was,
with your customers.
Yes,
Tell us about that and what you did to solve it.
That was a conundrum because this was a client that I'd started with years before that was traditional based. So they were buying the AJC. Ads would fall out on Sunday morning, and we'd design beautiful inserts with lots of products on it. And we'd buy radio ads and TV ads, which is pricey.
Right.
It's worthy, but pricey. When the economy slowed down in 2009, everything stopped, and they had luxury items. So they were items that people, it wasn't the basics. It wasn't food, water, and you're educating your children. It was luxury. So we had to completely pull back and shift and decide, well, now what? We had to pivot their advertising budget, as well as at that time, we just completely pivoted the agency as well. So to do that, where they were buying traditional, we went all the way. It's like, well, what we have to advertise. You cannot advertise. So what we needed to do is decide what you're willing to spend on advertising, and then wrote a plan using digital. It was pay-per-click with Google AdWords. It was you put up the ad, you target your market, and you only pay for the ads when people click on them and go to your website. So of course, you're going to have some people click and not buy, but you can at least control your spend and optimize your ad so that you get the right return on investment for your client. And we had clients that actually couldn't pivot. They wouldn't go onto the internet. They wanted to stay traditional, even though they couldn't afford it. And I know some people that actually went out of business because they couldn't change.
I think that's an important lesson. I remember you telling me you had already been dabbling in the internet world, so you were prepared to pivot. And I think that's a lesson for other small business owners to stay abreast of what's going on in your industry. Be prepared for that pivot when you need to do it. And it sounds like you were ready. Some of your customers went down the pivot route with you, and some of them didn't.
Right.
So I think that's a valuable lesson. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So because, as I said, why I enjoyed the internet, I wanted to find out everything was going on earlier. Before we had to make a shift, I was already introducing clients to it, and we already had ad budgets going on AdWords and different platforms, but doing it slowly.
Right.
It was, here's another way we can reach people. We're using traditional, but let's try this too. So it was easy for us in the team to make that transition because we already had the experience.
Yeah, that's great. So you grew the business from yourself to quite a number of resources. Let's talk about scaling, because that's an issue a lot of businesses deal with. That's a conundrum for a lot of folks.
Yes.
How do you scale? How do you make sure that you're not the only one with all the knowledge? Tell us what you did with that.
Well, it's still in process, and it's hard because the business is so old. But I had very slow organic growth. It was like, slowly growing, adding more clients, adding more services, adding more people, adding. And then you get to a point where, okay, we're really going to make some big progress and get some leap of growth going. But I had all the knowledge in my head. So it was trying to transfer that out to other people and giving other people decision-making abilities and getting that out of my head and into processes and on paper. So we did a couple things. One, we use a CRM, Rockhopper Tech CRM, and it works like a Basecamp. That's a popular name. It works like Salesforce, which is another big brand, but it's a platform that's very good for my business, and it also helps me track timesheets and customer reporting. So in the old days, I might talk to a client on the phone and then try to remember what I said, or email somebody and try to remember to tell somebody else about the email that I sent. The CRM puts all those emails into the database underneath that client's email and name and profile. So if somebody answers the phone because it's Christmas Eve and everyone's gone, that's a middle marketer, they can go back to that person's name, pull up all the last emails and all the notes that have been taken on that client. So that's one way of getting the information out from my head. The CRM also has a step-by-step process where you build milestones, and first you do step 1, you do an audit for the website, for example, for SEO. And then after you do step 1, you do step 2, step 3, step 4. So there's also some automatic processes built in. So it's not in my head anymore, it's written down, and anybody can follow the process. But it takes time. And it's also giving up control. That's kind of the funny part where I said it's hard.
Where you have to you have to give up the control that you felt like you had to have your finger in the pie with all the customers.
Yes.
But it's a challenge a lot of small business owners face as they scale. There are a lot of components to scaling, and that the business process is certainly one of them. I think people is another, the people piece of it, adding staff and making sure you get the right people. What are some things you do to address that piece of the puzzle around scaling?
Well, we do a lot for that too. Today, people that are under 30, they want different things than people that are between 30 and 40 and 40 and 50. So some of the things we've done for people under 30 is we have quarterly outings.
Okay.
And we have someone in charge of the quarterly outings. Our next outing is to go to an escape room together.
That's fun. We did that. I did that once.
Right.
That's fun.
We've also had retreat. We've done Top Golf, and things like that.
So you make it fun. You make the workplace fun.
Yes.
And
so that was for retaining of just the people that we work for. We also do a lot of ads, online ads, and we're always looking for good people. And it's our employment rate is very low, so you have to constantly search for the right people.
That's great. We work with a lot of business owners that struggle with that issue of delegation and going from having a great idea in a small business to scaling. What were some of the most challenging things you dealt with giving up that control and delegating?
Well, it's funny because you have to do it. You cannot scale if you have all the knowledge and you have all the control. So on one hand, I'm so proud when my team completes a project or completes, their campaign worked and the client's so thrilled and they're happy with what's happened. But then I'm like, oh, I wasn't part of it. So my heart's like, oh, or something is happening where things are a little askew and I think, I don't know what's going on. I need to know. I need to jump in there. They need me, but they get it taken care of. And then the other thing is just being accountable to somebody. When they come to me and they say, no, you have to give us this information. We need to know what the budget is. We need to know exactly what the price points are for the different roles. And then it's like, oh, I don't need to tell you everything. It's kind of my pushback, oh, okay. And then I have to talk to myself. Yeah, that's the right thing to do. You gotta let them grow. They have to know costs and labor costs and time and everything, and we can't grow.
That's great. People are dealing with some of the same issues, I'm sure. So it's interesting to hear that. And I'm sure it gets easier over time.
It will.
The more keys you let go and give to other people, the easier it gets.
Yeah. So. And I'm telling you, I'm being transparent too. I've never told anybody on the team that.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Companies need to keep up with technology and all the changes, and I know your company's doing quite a bit of that. Tell us how you tackle that conundrum of keeping up.
Well, it's a big one. So what we do is we test everything as quickly as something comes out. So for example, Snapchat, when it was new, and if you have a child in high school, you know what Snapchat is. When it first hit the marketplace, the entry point for ads was $500,000 is what you had to give Snapchat to get on the platform to advertise. So only large national, multinational companies could use Snapchat. Now it's a pay-per-click type model. So you can put a little or a lot in depending on your results. So as soon as we could test something for a client, we do that at a small scale when we think it's logical for that client. And you know what? It doesn't always work either. Like we test things that don't always work. And so you have to keep a budget in mind, that education budget for time for your people to stay educated, as well as the cost of testing.
So I'm guessing you probably have some of your team assigned to make the rest of you aware when there's a new technology coming on the forefront.
Yes. So we have team meetings on Mondays, and part of the team meeting, we first start with a personal share, and then it's a business share. So because everyone has a channel expert, so they're constantly getting their industry news, and then they keep us up to date as a group.
That's great. That's a great idea.
Thanks.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about what's going on in your industry. What are some of the conundrums or new innovations, changes that are going on in your industry today?
Well, as we said from the very beginning, what's fun about my industry is that it does change all the time. There's always something new to learn. And so the constant fluctuation, change, innovation, it's happening every moment in digital. Currently, there's big announcements because California just passed another Privacy Act. So we will have to read about it, figure it out, see how our clients, what we need to do for our clients. The first step will be to educate them. This is what's happening. And then on an individual basis, figure out what we're going to do for each client for workarounds so that we can still deliver the same quality targeting for the ads. But it started 2 years ago, actually, with the GDPR from Europe saying you have to tell people that you're collecting information. So today, people are used to seeing a cookie pop up, a notice that we're cooking you, which means they're dropping code on your individual computer so they can follow you around the internet.
Right. So, and I've seen that as well. A lot more sites now are having that message pop up. So we will all understand now why we're seeing that.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm sure that a lot of your customers may not be up to speed on all of these changes, these security and privacy changes. What does your company do to keep folks up to date?
Well, we have to communicate with our clients monthly or bi-weekly sometimes, depending on the client. And we are telling them this is what we're going to do for you. When the GDPR came out, we rewrote everybody's privacy policy, for example.
Okay.
And we sent them an email individually because although we do post on our Facebook page and our LinkedIn page, a lot of the clients, they are heads down in their business and they're not reading social media to find their news. So when things are important, we have to send them an email and say, this is what's going on, and here's our solution to help you. Please read the privacy policy and see if you agree. Because to ask them to write it, it's going to take them too much time.
So it sounds like that's good advice. If you guys are not using Deedra's company, read up on the policies and make sure you're familiar with it. So that might be a piece of advice you'd give a lot of companies to make sure they know what's going on in that arena. So what else is going on with your customers that's a conundrum or an issue that may be keeping them up at night? What do you see happening that's concerning to your customers?
Well, the one thing, because the economy is so strong, is we touched on a little bit, is getting the right people working for them. That's one problem. And the other one is the dramatic change and keeping them educated to all the changes and all the opportunity and what they could be doing for advertising and marketing.
What advice would you give companies today, given the fast changes that are happening in advertising?
I would say find someone inside your company that loves advertising, media, the internet, marketing, and social media, or find a consultant or find a good agency partner to help you.
Great. Deedra, thank you so much for joining today. It's been a pleasure talking with you, learning a little bit more, and I'll look forward to watching your company continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you.